Hello and welcome to another episode of the Citizens of Lorcana podcast, a podcast where we invite you to be a part of their world. Today, we are here to discuss how to prepare for organized play, so without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to another week. Last week we had a chance to visit with Nive of Nive's Nerd Corner, where we talked about organized play, set championships, numbers. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that, make sure to go back and check it out. And today, we are joined by the Michael Jordan, the GOAT of Lorcana, the one and only Zach Bivens. Welcome. Zach, why don't you take a minute and tell everyone what you're all about?
That is too kind. I don't know about Michael Jordan, but yeah, so I'm excited to talk to you guys. Name's
You're my Michael Jordan. I'm sure there are others out there who are just as competitive or more competitive than you, but I don't know. You'll always be the early GOAT in my mind anyway.
Hey, I'll take that for sure. But yeah, I've been playing Lorcana since the first day the product was released in stores. Pretty confident that I've been to more big in-person tournaments than anyone else in the world and done pretty well in them. As long as I get a ticket to all the challenges, I'll be at every single one of those too, which I know sounds crazy. Played card games in some capacity pretty much my entire life, so just long history there and just really excited for the future of Lorcana.
Were you sitting there like at 3 playing solitaire with cards, or
yeah, something like that?
Just start early.
No, but back to your point about going to lots of big tournaments, it seems like every time I turn on Twitter, it's like, hey, I just went to this 3K and I came in first place. It's like legit every time. But the other thing that just the reason why I put you right up there is not only are you good, you're just a good human. Like one of the first things that really stuck out to me was after you won one of your tournaments, you're like, I'm giving away my deck. It was the Amber Stillsong deck, and it had, some of the cards. I think it had Rapunzel in it, which at the time was like $60. And you're like, I'm giving the whole deck away just because I want to show my appreciation for the community. And you've been like that ever since. And I think that, that's just a really admirable thing.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. I won the tournament, super excited. Everyone was so nice. I was like, yeah, why not? And yeah, like you said, I added it up. It was like a $700 deck. It was pretty crazy.
I did a giveaway of Rapunzel, and at the time I was like, $60. So then I did my giveaway, and then like the next week you're like, I'm giving away full-on deck here. Like
basically I just gave away all the money I won. So I mean it wasn't it wasn't the worst thing ever.
Now the fun thing is that you go to a tournament and you win with the $700 deck. We'll get into this later, but you also have gone to a tournament and won with like a $60 deck.
And that was a much bigger tournament. So that was pretty cool.
That's so cool. That is so cool. And we'll talk all about that kind of stuff later about how that's the way Lorcana seems to be working. But first, before we get into all of that stuff, we usually do tech, deck, and specs. And now we got set championships coming up. But if it's just a locals week, what are you taking to locals this week if you're going to just play at your LGS?
Oh, if it's just a locals, I'm playing Amethyst Sapphire. It is like the most fun ink combination. There's just something soothing about ramping up and playing 8-cost Elsa 5 times in a row with all my bounce cards. So Amethyst Sapphire all the way.
I can't remember who it was on Twitter, but somebody said they had a picture of the Madam Mim snake, and they said, to whoever my opponent was that I bounced Elsa back and played her 3 times in a row, I'm sorry. That would be a table flipping moment for me.
Yes. Yeah, that's the most fun deck for sure.
Oh,
interesting.
That just sounds brutal. I mean, sounds more brutal than discard, because at least discard, it's not even in your hand or in play. With Elsa, it's like it's right there. I can see it. It's in front of me, and it is useless.
And it's getting frozen 4 more times, so get used to it.
That's harsh.
Ouch.
So is that deck, is it viable enough to take it to the next level, or is that just, a for fun deck?
It's pretty good. Like it actually matches pretty well into stuff like Ruby Amethyst and even like Ruby Sapphire, but it's pretty weak to Steel. So it's not something I would take to a set championship. It's not good against Steel, and there's just way too many Steel decks.
Awesome. So I'm still on my Ruby Sapphire deck, but there we are. So today I wanted to talk all about tournament prep because, like I was saying earlier, every time I see you on post on Twitter, it's like, hey, I won this big tournament. So with organized play upon us, both with the set championships and the DLCs. I wanted to absorb as much knowledge as I can, and I think that this is something that our audience would appreciate too, because one of the things James and I have done from the beginning, we've tried to be, cater to a beginner type crowd because we're both beginners. So take us to the beginning. When you first start preparing for a major tournament, when do you start, and what do you start doing?
So, well, I'm always like building decks, always playing games and looking at tournament results. So I'm kind of always prepping for an event, but I'd say like the week of an event is when I'm really getting focused, because the metagame changes so fast in Lorcana. The deck list just completely changed. So it's really hard to actually focus in on it until it's like the week of the event. And then I'm just going hard at it, getting as many reps as I can. Just week of, I think, is when you really just get going at it.
Yeah, the meta really does seem to change fast, especially this set. I was talking to somebody in our Discord, and they were sharing with me a picture of one of the decks that they're testing out. And they said that the deck show that they've played over 300 times. So is that are you getting 300 games worth of reps the week of the tournament?
I wish I was. In an ideal world, I would be. I'm definitely not getting 300 reps, so I respect that. But the answer to how many reps you should get is always as much as possible. But you want to make sure that they're good reps. So I'm not getting 300 reps just because I don't have the time currently, but I'm making sure that they're good reps. You don't want to be playing games distracted on your phone or the TV or something. Stay engaged, learn as much as you can from those games. And then something that I do as well that really helps me is I control the matchups that I play against. So like I said, I kind of have limited time right now. If I'm playing Still Song, I don't want to be playing against aggro over and over because I know that's a good matchup. So I'm going to want to control the games I'm playing and play against Ruby Sapphire, playing against the Sapphire decks so I can really dial in those games, change up my list for those difficult matchups. So just put in the reps, make them good reps that you're doing.
Makes sense. So you mentioned the meta changing all the time. How many set championships are you planning to go to over the next couple of weeks?
I have 5 that I'm going to.
So do you know those places? And because I know that in local game stores, as you shift around to different game stores, the meta is actually a little bit different in each game store. Are you preparing for each one individually if you know something about them, or are you just trying to cover your bases with one deck or 2 decks? Are you planning on just one or multiple decks?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'm kind of down to 2 decks that I'll be playing for all 5. So not really changing too much. I think I just kind of have a grasp on the meta right now and just stick with the 2 decks that I am able to put the time into.
Oh, I'm convinced you could take a deck full of vanilla cards and still come out on top. You just got it, man.
Hey, just give me some flounders. I'm good to go.
Amen. Mono flounder deck. That's we got the puppy deck. I think you made a puppy deck. I know Steadfast did, but when are we getting the flounder deck?
I don't know, man. I think we need some more flounder support. We only have 1 flounder card, right?
So here's my theory. This set 4 is Ursula's Return. I think there's going to be a lot of Little Mermaid cards in set 4. Sense. So I'm hoping we're going to get another flounder here.
Yeah, set 4 is your time.
Set 4 is time for Team Flounder to reclaim its place in the meta.
Absolutely.
The place it never had. Time to claim a spot in the meta. So as you're testing a deck, like you said that you're, kind of focused in on 2 here, what exactly are you looking for? Are you just looking to build muscle memory? Are you looking to cut cards / add cards? Are you looking for hidden combos that you may not have noticed at first that just with time and repetition, you're wow, I didn't notice this before, but this is really good. When you're testing a deck, what exactly are you looking for?
I think in general, it is good for players to build that muscle memory, common lines of play that you should take in each matchup. But I do think it's important that you remain open-minded and flexible during games. Because when you're just relying on the muscle memory, it's easy to tunnel vision into just doing the same thing over and over. But there's going to be different opportunities that present themselves, and you want to be able to not have that tunnel vision. And say you top deck a certain card or they played a different way than you expected, you want to be able to adapt to that. So yes, muscle memory is important, but making sure that you're open-minded and flexible when you're playing is really important too. So So don't just get caught up in that muscle memory. And yeah, I'm always looking for cards to cut, cards to add, depending on where I can identify the weaknesses in the testing. Yeah, and do you have something else?
The hitting combos. Sometimes when you get familiar with the deck, and you're like, that's something that you didn't anticipate seeing in this deck, but that's something that like really makes this deck pop. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think I kind of, when I look at a list personally, I can see the combos. There are like certain lines of play that you can discover when you are doing that focus testing, where you're playing the same matchup over and over. So I think that's another reason why you want to focus in on the testing. If you play the same matchup 10 times in a row, you might discover those hidden combos.
Yeah. I think you're talking about that tunnel vision. That's totally my weakness. I hate to say that I play on autopilot, but it's like I have my cards in my hand. I pretty much already know what I'm going to do next turn. And when I play against players that are really good, they don't they sit there and they take the time to think, and they just see the board differently than I see it. And I wish I could unlock that part of my brain.
Yeah.
That would allow me to play the game like that, because I don't know. I just go on autopilot and I go.
Yeah. Just remain open-minded. I think it just all comes with practice, man. I think that's all it is. I've been in this a long time, so yeah, get those reps in.
When I start a game, typically, I feel like sometimes, maybe not even at the back of my brain, but like sometimes it's right at the front. It's like, oh no, what do I do? Even though I know what I want to do and I have the cards and I've been playing the deck for weeks, let's say, but there's always that, like, am I doing the whole choices thing with all the different lines of play, what you can do, what are you playing, what deck are you playing against? I do feel like sometimes there's that lock of like, what am I going to do next? And when you're practicing, that's the kind of thing where it helps you to remove those kind of thoughts, right? Where it gets rid of some of that. It doesn't help get rid of some of that. Am I doing the right thing? Because you've done it often enough that it's usually going to be the right thing. One of those 2 or 3 things that you do in that deck, is the right move to take.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the muscle memory part of it. You get those reps in and you get that muscle memory. So
yeah, because when I think muscle memory, it's like, to me that's like turn off the brain, but you never do that, right? You should never turn off the brain.
Right. Like I said, it's important to take it to the next level and stay flexible. Yeah.
Because I want to play without turning. I want to turn off the brain and just play.
And
win.
I don't know.
I think you can do that.
Is necessarily like turning off the brain. I think it's just like having the pattern so deeply ingrained in your mind that you don't even have to think about it. So that way, when like Zach was talking about taking a moment to survey the board, keeping your mind open, because you are so deeply ingrained with that muscle memory, your mind is able to explore those other options. To me, that's what muscle memory means.
Right. Okay. All right. So one of the things in all of this practicing, getting ready, all that kind of stuff, one of the things that I did was me and some friends formed a team so that we can play against each other, practice decks, figure out things, have someone to bounce ideas off of. Is that something that you're doing as well? Are you just like off on your own and just like call for help for random people, or are you like working with a small group? Is that something that you also are doing as part of your preparation?
I definitely do both. I think it's really, really helpful to have the team, and that helps you with your specific matchup testing where you can focus in on it. So it just depends. Like for the 8K that we had talked about a little bit, I did that completely on my own, and then there's other times when I'll build decks with other people. So yeah, I think teams are very, very helpful, and playing with people that you think are better than you is really, really helpful too.
Well, I think everybody's better than me, so that's not a problem.
You say, Zach, how do you find people better than you? Okay, no. That is a real question. How do you find like a group of people that you feel comfortable playtesting with? Because I'm pretty sure if you were playtesting with me, you probably wouldn't gain a lot out of that, because I just fly on autopilot.
Yeah, I guess it can be hard to find a team and stuff like that. I think just going to locals in general is how people find stuff. And then online, like there's so many good people on Twitter, so many awesome people, just good people in general, good at playing the game. So yeah, I think just reaching out, don't be afraid to reach out to people is the best way to do it.
Okay, now let's talk about the time commitment.
Mm-hmm.
How much time are you putting into playtesting? Like, I know James is over there playtesting like a fiend, but like you work a job,
Yeah.
and I don't know about the rest of your life, but I'm assuming you have a life too. So where are you finding the time to playtest?
So you might not like this answer, but I really don't have much time for Lorcana right now, or like since it started. I barely put playtesting in. Just relying on my past experience with card games. I think I've reached like 10% of my potential because I have no time to play Lorcana.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody plays more games than me, I feel like. So I have the job. I have a 2-year-old daughter, which I don't think anyone knows about in Lorcana, but yeah, that takes up a lot of my time too. Wife and daughter, all that stuff. So yeah, life's definitely busy.
No, I hear you. I got the family thing too, and like it makes it tough to like if I could wave a magic wand and just like when I'm off work, I'm just practicing Lorcana, getting those reps in. But you know, I have other things that take priority as well.
Mm-hmm. I definitely would love to just do nothing but Lorcana. Like that's the dream.
No.
So hopefully we get there at some point.
It gets easier as the kids get older. I will say that.
Yeah.
So by the time tournament day rolls around, how confident are you in your deck? Like, I don't know if that's a well phrased question, but do you get what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I get what
Like,
you're
do you go
saying.
do you go into the tournament and you're like, I feel like I can actually win with this deck?
So it definitely varies. It just depends on the time. Like when I went to the Atlanta 8K with the crazy budget deck, like I was extremely confident. I thought when I walked in the door I was going to win the entire tournament. Just because of the work I put in and just crafting it against the exact meta that I was predicting. So sometimes I walk in thinking I'm going to take it down, and then other times I have zero confidence. Like when I won the 1K with Hercules in set 2, I had zero confidence in the deck. I had confidence in my playing abilities, but none in the deck. So sometimes I'm feeling it, sometimes I'm not, but I just trust the process, and whatever happens, happens.
So at this point, you brought up this, and James has brought up this $60 budget deck. Why don't you talk about that? Let's take a moment and explore that thing, because one of the things that we see people talk a lot about is that Lorcana is an expensive game, which it very well can be. However, you showed that a deck that is $60, $60 to $70 can take fourth place in a big tournament like that. So tell us about, you know, that whole experience in designing the deck and testing it and piloting it.
So, I mean, I didn't set out to build a budget deck. It wasn't like that or anything. It just happened to be that the cards I thought were optimal were dirt cheap. Like I could dig them out of the bulk box. But so for that tournament in particular, the red-blue deck had just started taking off like crazy in set 3. So it was super hyped. Sapphire Steel was super hyped. Of course, Ruby Amethyst is always super hyped. So those were your 3 decks right there. Everybody thought that Still Song was just a terrible play because it's not so great into Sapphire. So with all that in mind, I just decided to completely punt the Still Song matchup. If I face it all well, I'm just going to lose. I'm gonna make the best deck I can to beat those 3 decks that everyone's hyped up. So that was what I set out to do, and really just built so it's basically an aggro deck. At least the Ruby Amethyst list at the time were weak to aggro. Ruby Sapphire is really weak to aggro, and I could get under the Sapphire Steel deck too with like the resist bodyguards and stuff. So really, it was just building a deck to counter those 3 decks, and if I run into Still Song, oh well, which is what happened in top 4. Made it all the way to top 4 until I ran into Zan with Still Song, and I still stole a game off of him. So that was kind of the thought process behind it. And I built it the week of, like I said, that's when I really try to dig in, and don't have a lot of time. I was actually like staying up. I was getting like 4 hours of sleep all week that night so I could build the deck.
Are you even human?
And then talking about that, you mentioned studying the meta, knowing what people are going to take. How do you read the meta? And now, I'm guessing this is just an experience thing, but how do you know based on what happened in the last week or two what people are going to be shifting to in the next week or two to plan ahead for the deck you're going to build for that meta, because this meta keeps shifting every single week.
It does.
So how do you plan for that? Is that something you can plan for, or is it just best guesses?
That's a hard question to answer. It can be a guessing game. Like for the 8K, just everything came together where everybody, like, if you pay attention to YouTube, everybody was like, this red-blue deck is the best deck ever. It's unbeatable. So everyone's being told red-blue was unbeatable. Of course, everyone's always going to play Ruby Amethyst. You just kind of pay attention to tournament results, pay attention to YouTube videos, pay attention everywhere you can, and you'll see the results, see what everyone's hyping up and stuff.
But when I see that and I see everyone saying, you know, red blue is unbeatable, I'm like, well, no. If everyone sees that, then everyone's going to find the red blue killer and play that, right?
Yeah, but that's easier said than done. Like, it's really hard to create a deck out of thin air.
But we already know some stuff that can go against it.
Yeah,
at least reasonably. So you just try and tech away into getting it an even better matchup against that. So you know if everyone's bringing something. Is that just like the thought process of you just knocking down the pegs of, okay, so since everyone thinks this, I'm going to think that more of them are going to do this. So then that means I'm going to do that.
Man,
is it just like that kind of a process?
Yeah, it's so hard to explain it, I guess. I don't know. There's so many levels to it, and you have to pay attention to the right people. It's really hard to explain.
Who's the person we talk to who can figure that out, so that we can just ask them every week when we're going into one of these big events? Okay, where's it at?
Hey, if you find that person, let me know.
Steve Warner.
Yep.
Oh yeah, because I that's the thing I'm worried about going into these championships. It's like it's because you're having to deal with the local meta, and I'm going. So I can't believe I'm actually doing more than you, but I'm actually going to 6.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I know I'm going to be wrecked at the end of the 2 weeks. Yeah, I know I'm going to be losing so much sleep, and my brain is. I mean, I'm tired at the end of like a 4-round locals. You know, I'm wiped, and I got to do this 6 times in what is it, in 9 days, 9 or 10 days. So yeah, it's going to be rough, and it's in different stores in different areas of Southern California, and they all have their local metas, and so I can't plan for all of that. You know, I can't bring 6 different decks. I can't practice 6 or 4 or 3 different decks. I got to pick one deck that I think is going to be the best all-around deck and just get really good at that deck, right?
Yeah, for something like that, for like set championships, I definitely recommend sticking to one deck, learning it inside and out, and just playing it. That's the one you got to know the best. You can't cover everything. Like I was saying, I couldn't cover everything. I knew if I played Still Song, I was dead. So don't try to cover everything, because that's the surefire way to not cover anything. You're just deluding yourself against everything.
I did, Jared, back when we started all this, and we're like, hey, let's get into this game. Let's do it from the beginning. Let's go through this whole process of, getting competitive. It's like, I did not know that there was going to be this much head bashing on wall of trying to figure things out.
Man, it's just Disney characters, man.
and that's the thing. I think there's a lot more depth to this game than a lot of people were willing to give it initially.
All right, so we've been talking about all of this prep for meta, blah, blah, blah. So let's talk about the non-Lorcana game prep that you like to go through. You mentioned that you were getting only a little bit of sleep, but is there like a certain number of hours of sleep that you have to get? Are you like heading to wherever it is, if it's within a reasonable distance, to check out the place? Are you like scoping it out? Are you doing any meditating? What is your pre-tournament prep that is not game related?
Okay. So I'm never going like there beforehand. I just punch in the address the day of and go. As far as like getting enough sleep is always the goal, but that's easier said than done. Somehow it never seems to happen. So recommend the sleep, easier said than done. And meditating, I'm doing the opposite of meditating. So like before round 1 and before Top Cut, I'm like punching the air, going to my car, blasting some loud music to get pumped up. Like opposite of meditating. I want to be pumped and ready to go.
So what I hear you saying is I need to be more dysfunctional if I want to succeed.
There you go. You figured it out.
That's impressive. So a follow-up question to that. Some of these tournaments are very long. How do you prepare for a 7+ hour day of playing high-level cards?
Okay, I'm going to give you some general advice for a normal person, and then I'll tell you how crazy I am. So, general advice. Yeah, large events are going to be long days. You have to be mentally prepared before you even get there. Bring plenty of snacks, water, all that stuff. Much sleep as possible. So, yeah, there's your normal person's answer. For me, it starts like way before I even know about a specific tournament. Like, it might sound crazy, but I go to the gym, I run, I do all this just so I'm better at card games. Like, that's the reason that I go to the gym is Lorcana. That's my motivation. Like 10+ hour days are the norm at many big tournaments. If you're not prepared mentally and physically, then your play and your mood declines as the day goes on. And then so there's been studies on chess players that show they burn like something like 6,000 calories or something. And they even lose like 10 pounds just sitting there playing all day. And that's it. So yeah, these things if you're playing at the highest level, it's intense. The days are long. And yeah, I know it might kind of sound insane, but I definitely train specifically for this.
I think I've been doing the wrong training.
Or I need to start hitting the gym. I need to fix my diet. I mean, but no, that's 100% true. Like, you have to have the foundation in place. If you're sitting there falling asleep between rounds, you're probably not playing at the highest level.
Yeah, your play will decline over the day.
I do have some like training in spending, I don't know, 18 hours at Comic-Con once, for a week, once a year, just like from like 4 a.m. until 11 p.m. sometimes, just on the go doing stuff at Comic-Con. So I guess that's training, but I haven't done that since last July.
I'll get back to it then. That's your training.
Right? Oh, jeez. Okay. All right. So let's focus on at tournament now. So we've trained, we've built our deck, and now do we have any at the tournament practices and routines that you're doing? Like, what are you doing game one of a round, and like you don't have any idea what you're playing against? What's your strategy for mulliganing? Like, what are you doing at the event itself?
Don't really have any like pre-game things other than, like I said, before round one and before top cut, I go to my car, blast some loud music, and get pumped up. So that's it there. Talking about mulliganing when you don't know what you're playing against. So there's a lot to consider with the mulligan in Lorcana. If I'm mulliganing in the blind where I don't know what I'm playing against, I'm just pretty much going to go for a strong curve and try to do what my deck is best at doing. So like if I'm playing Still Song, that would be keeping Cinderella, some lanterns if you play them, keeping Ariels and Robin Hoods. I'm just trying to do what my deck does best if I don't know what I'm playing against. But choosing the specific cards you mulligan definitely changes drastically if you know what you're playing against. Got to be specific cards you go for in each matchup. And it depends how aggressively you mulligan for them based on how good the matchup is, in my opinion. Like generally, the better the matchup, the more conservative you should be in your mulligan, because you can win with a worse hand on average. Whereas if it's a really unfavorable matchup, like I'm playing Still Song into Ruby Sapphire, I'm mulliganing really aggressive because I have to hit the key cards on each turn, because it's going to take a higher value hand on average to win those games. And same applies to if you go first or second. If you go first, you have a big advantage, so your hand can be a little weaker on average, so you can mulligan more conservative. Whereas if you're going second, your opponent has that advantage, so you have to mulligan more aggressively to make up for that. So yeah, really no right way to do the mulligans, and changes based on all the information you have.
So I can't remember who it was. Somebody that won one of the big online tournaments. They actually had like a spreadsheet that they put out showing ideal mulligans for each ink combo that they played against. Is that something that, I mean, okay, talking to you, I'm guessing it's probably not something that you do, but is that something that you do?
It's not like, it's just, I just kind of know. It's all up here in the dome. Yeah, the spreadsheet is super helpful when you're teaching the deck, but yeah, it's not something I actually do. Just know it from all the reps.
That was Zan who put out the spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's so nice of him after he knocked me out of top 4.
You're welcome.
Here's how I did it.
But I mean, you basically go through the same process. You're just not putting it in a spreadsheet and like,
Yeah,
studying that spreadsheet or whatever. But if you wanted to, you probably could.
exactly. Yeah. I just know it from doing from the practice, but yeah, could definitely do it.
So when you're playing a game, and you kind of addressed this already when you talked about having an open mind, but are you like constantly evaluating your play? Whether that's during the actual game. Okay. So, okay. Are you evaluating your play both while you're in the game and then between rounds? Like you're looking back after a game, after a round, and you're like, this is what I did well. This is what I could do better. This is what my opponent did well. This is what my opponent could have done better. Are you sitting there like running through those types of evaluations? Or are you just like, that was the game, clean slate, let's move on to the next one?
So during the game, I like to just trust all the prep that I put in beforehand. I don't want to be second guessing myself. Like, sure, if I make a misplay, I'm probably going to see it. But during the game, I just trust the process. Just trust what I'm doing. All the work that I put in before that game, and then after the game and after the tournament, that's when I'm going to reflect on all that and what I can do better.
So you do that after the tournament, then?
Yeah. I don't want to do it during the game. I just want to be confident, play on the intuition and what I've learned beforehand.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sidetrack. Sometimes I feel like I'm playing just on the feel of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you should be wary of or strive to?
That's tough because I think it can change for the person. I think if you have all the practice beforehand, you'll just intuitively know like it's going to come together as one. But yeah, for me, I like to play on intuition a lot and trust all I've learned from going into it. It kind of just blends together, honestly.
I could just be deluding myself, right?
Don't dilute yourself. Don't do it.
All right. So is there anything that you think we might have missed about prepping or playing in organized play that you think we should actually talk about?
I think we've pretty much covered a lot of it, and I think we're good.
Except
All right.
for, what is the meta?
You got to
Right
find the
now.
man for that.
What is random?
Oh god.
Have you been following that
Well,
whole thing on
let's talk
Twitter
about-
today?
What's
The
that?
Emerald card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it.
I do want to talk about the meta without talking about the meta right now. Since this is something that a lot of people are saying is a very good thing, how is it? Do you see it as a very good thing that the meta is so wide open, where every week we have these changes, and every week you don't know what deck is going to place at the top of the big tournament of the week? Do you think that is like 100% a good thing, or would you like it to be a little tighter, where there's like maybe one deck that's slightly better than the rest, and then the other ones are just like 1A?
No, I love how it is right now. I think it's the healthiest the game has been in the 3 sets, and honestly, one of the healthiest meta games I've seen in any game. Like, I'm really impressed by how well they've balanced in set 3. Set 1 was good. Set 2 was not good in my opinion, but set 3 is amazing.
I was just gonna say, I will take this meta over the soul crushing Ruby Amethyst meta any and every single day of my life.
It is kind of amazing how oppressive set 2 was to what it is right now. It's such it's complete 180. It's amazing.
Set 2 was possibly one of the worst, if not the worst, I've ever seen in the game, and now set 3 is like the complete opposite. Like, I'm super impressed with how well they've done set 3.
That's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so one of the things we failed to mention is that you are also creating content now. You have your own YouTube channel. You've joined the game. Okay, but again, how do you have the time? But after you answer that, is there any advice you have for fellow or aspiring content creators?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the time. You just do it. My advice would be to stay at it and post as much as you can. Don't try to wait until it's perfect. It's much better to just do it, whether it is or not, because I mean, that's my biggest problem in the past, trying to get it perfect, and then you delay it so much, or you don't even do it. So I say just don't try to get it perfect. Just do it, whether it looks all flashy or not. And I actually had zero social media before this. Like, I created Twitter for Lorcana. I created YouTube for Lorcana. Like, I'm learning all this stuff myself. So, like, you can definitely do it. I'm learning everything. Just post and learn as you go. Don't try to be all polished. And also, don't care about what other people think. Don't care about what they think about what you do. No one does things perfectly. Just push yourself to get out of your comfort zone. That's definitely what I'm doing. And if someone leaves a negative comment, like, I think it's them that has the problem. They need to rethink what they're doing, not you. So it's hard, but don't worry about the negativity.
Ignore the negative comments. Like, people are like, you could slip $100 bills into, Lorcana packs, and people would still complain about that. Like, there are going to be people who hate all the time, and yeah, it's exactly like what you said. You just have to tune it out. And sometimes people take things really personal, but at the end of the day, you can't control what another person's going to think. You can't make everybody happy. Like, regardless of what you do, there are always going to be people upset. So avoiding those negative comments and just tuning it out, I think that's so crucial.
And I didn't see a question to ask about this, but just 2 days ago, you announced that you are going to be offering coaching services.
Yes, I just started it. Honestly, it's been the plan since before. Like, the day I knew that Lorcana was coming out, like, that was part of the plan already. Get good at the game, offer coaching, do all this stuff. And just trying to, I just pushed myself to put it out now because I didn't want to. I wanted to wait until I could do it perfectly. And like I said, I'm just forcing myself to do stuff, whether it's perfect now or not. So I just announced it, started up doing some of that, and I've done several sessions now doing that.
And listen, if you want to get better at Lorcana, this is the guy, okay? So if you have any inkling to get coaching, like, Zach, tell people where they can find you, because that's something that they need to know. And we'll include a link in the description of this episode.
So you can find me on Twitter, just at Zach Bivens1. Post on there all the time. I've started YouTube recently. The channel name is Lorcana Castle. So haven't put a ton out with that. Trying to find the time is hard, but trying to get more onto that. And then the coaching, you can find that. You can go to my Twitter and find it through there if you really wanted to do that.
So they just shoot you a DM saying they are interested in Twitter? Do you have like a sign up thing for that?
So I wanted to do, and this is what I'm going to transition it to. There's this thing called Metafy where like all the top Pokemon players and everybody. Yeah. I was like, okay, it's finally time to do it. Let me get on Metafy. I go on there and they tell me it'll take a month to verify me. So I had to throw that out the window to get started. So the only way I could really get it off the ground to begin with was Patreon. So that's what it's through right now. Trying to transition to something more intuitive like Metafy and something like that. But if you just want to DM me on Twitter, we can talk about it and stuff.
Gotcha. All right.
What kind of level of player do you think would best be served by your help?
I think honestly anybody. I've definitely helped beginners so far, and I helped someone, like the last one I did was with someone who's a grandmaster, like playing online. So they're pretty experienced. So I was able to help them. I was able to help beginners. So I think anybody for sure.
Excellent. Awesome.
All right. Well, at this point, I think we're going to move into some listener questions. So these ones you don't have to answer. Like, we don't have to go super in depth. We got a lot of questions. People are really excited to hear what you have to say. So again, if you want to ask questions of our guest, we have a Discord. We have a podcast questions section, and you are more than welcome to pop a question in there. So we also asked for questions on Twitter, but we're going to go through the ones on Discord first, okay? So this one comes from a user called Martin Carp. What is the one thing you would change about the game or community if you could?
I think the game is pretty awesome. The community just not snapping to that negative reaction when things don't go how we want it. Like there's been several examples lately. So I think just being open-minded to trying things before we jump to the negative conclusion.
So quick. We're so quick. I think what you're talking about is like how quickly the tickets sold out in Atlanta and everybody was crying their eyes out, even though they said that they had a
me,
plan.
but I mean,
Okay. This one comes from Cameron, the Lorcana curator. And if you can't answer this, it's fine. He's just throwing it out there. He says, an obvious question, but I'd like to know what he's going to play for set championships if he's willing to share that info. But if you're not, that's fine.
Yeah, so I'm between 2 decks right now, and I'll probably play both. Like I said, I'm going to 5. So I've got a Steel Song list that I've built, of course, kind of what I've known for. So I'll be playing Steel Song, and I'll be playing, for the first time ever, I'm not happy to say it, Ruby Amethyst. Those are my 2 decks for set championships.
You went to the dark side.
I feel okay about it, though, because I avoided the set 1, I avoided the terrible set 2, and now that it's not oppressive, I'm going to be playing it a little bit. So those are my 2 decks.
Yeah, I think, like, I don't hate it when I come against a Ruby Amethyst deck anymore. It's definitely not as feel bad.
It's fair now. Other decks are fair on the same level.
Yeah. Okay, this comes from a user, NC Villain. He wants to know what your opinion on Lorcana game mechanics like location, shift, as far as how balanced or good they are. And specifically, he's wondering if there's like a mechanic that people aren't using enough that maybe we should be looking to use more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can't think of a mechanic that we're not using enough, really. I think shift might be one we're using too much, kind of, to be honest with you, in general. And I think it's changed some recently, but shifting is not as good as it seems a lot of the times. Giving up that card, like you're I don't know how to explain it, I guess, but you're giving up that card you're shifting onto. That's a big cost that you don't realize. Like when people were playing 3-cost Tinkerbell, like back in set 1, like I barely played that card. I think that card was not worth playing. So I think shift is something that we're using too much because I don't think it's as good as people think it is. And then locations, I don't think they're very good right now in general, just because you can attack into them and you don't get punished at all for that. So I don't think they've reached their full potential. I think they'll get better as we go
on. A follow-up question. He said, is there a favorite type of mechanic from another game that you'd like to see come to Lorcana?
That's tough. I don't know. I think I love the game how it is right now. I really don't want to mess with it.
I agree.
But you know they're gonna. They have to.
I don't want sideboards. That's something that I just do not want. So I think that's, yeah.
You and James.
Your sideboard is in the deck and it becomes ink, right?
Right, because of the ink system, you don't need a sideboard. You're already playing your sideboard in your deck.
Makes sense. Okay, the next question comes from Repo Man, and there's a big message here, and I sent that to you in the chat, but the question here specifically, he says, my question is, how did you come by your positive outlook regarding the game, and how do you sustain it?
Yeah, so that's super nice anyway, so thank you for that. And it's something that I've worked on a lot, believe it or not. So like 10 years ago playing Pokemon, I would get super salty, complain all the time about luck or the format or things like that. So I was there at one point. It's taken a lot of work to get to where I am. There's zero value in negativity. And I think kindness is always the answer. Yeah, I just think there's no value in it. You're wasting your time when you could be spending it getting better at other things. Like you're not going to hear me complain about luck. I just assume everything's my fault, even if it's not. Like, I think that's just come from a lot of work.
Wasting time and energy on things that are out of your control is like one of the least productive things that you can do. Like, I totally understand getting salty. Like, I have those moments of red where I'm just like, oh, outraged. But quickly that leaves me because I'm just like, I'm not benefiting from this negativity at all. And, yeah, I echo what Repo Man said, like the grace that you have in this community and how the kindness, the positivity that you spread is second to none. So
I appreciate that. That means a lot.
All right, so now we're moving into questions from Twitter. So this first question comes from a user, Chappie. He says, with the game expanding every 3 months with a new set, what's the likeliness of deck staples we've seen since the first chapter being replaced? Like Do you think we'll get a better aerial spectacular singer, a better be prepared, or do you think that those like cards are going to always be staples?
That's a good question. So over time, most will probably get replaced, but there are certain standout cards that I have a pretty hard time believing they would print something better. Like Maui is just insane. It would be hard to get a better Maui. So that one will probably stand the test of time. Ariel is another one that's just really good. Like she's only going to get better with more songs than Rapunzel. Like how do you make a better Rapunzel? That card's pretty broken. So I think a lot will get replaced. Like we've seen from set 1 to set 2, Aladdin completely fell out, whereas he was in every Ruby deck before. So I think over time, most will get replaced, but there will be some that stand the test of time.
Yeah. All right. This comes from B Squared, our good friend. He says, is Bivens aware that his name has become an adjective in the community? How does he feel about that? And also, will he go easy on me when we pair up in Atlanta?
So no, I don't know what you mean by the adjective part, and also no, I'm not going easy on you.
Okay. So
kindness is not the answer in that situation. You're going down.
So like when somebody does really good in a tournament or they just like kick butt, there's a meme that's been going around and it's I forget who it is, but it's a picture of somebody from like Simpsons or Futurama and it says,
Bivens. So, yeah, the picture is from Fairly Odd Parents. I know the picture for sure.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your name has become an adjective in the community.
Hey, I'll take it.
That's a sign that you've made it.
A positive adjective, right?
Hey.
Yes.
Yeah, because you don't want to be the negative adjective.
All right. I love this question here. And this is one that I am fully on board for. This is from Lorcana Cards. When should stores start doing multiplayer 1Ks? I think that'd be awesome.
That would be a lot of fun. I don't see it happening. I don't think that they will get I don't know. I just have a hard time seeing that being super successful. I think it would be super fun. I don't know if you need to attach 1K to it. I would love to play in some of those tournaments, but yeah, I don't know if it'll happen widespread as far as 1Ks go.
Yeah, same. I can definitely see it like these DLCs having side events with multiplayer, but I agree. Having like 1Ks or 3Ks may not draw the amount of people that they're hoping for.
Yeah.
Maybe just some local stores doing some like case tournaments that are multiplayer or something like that.
Definitely more likely that would happen for sure.
All right, next question comes from Matt, Lorcana Muppet. What is the first thing that you look for once a whole new set has been released, or once the newest set is released, and the kind of things that you look for among the new cards to determine playability?
Just if I can, so for me personally, if I can relate it to another game, like this effect was really good in another game, so I know it's probably going to be really good in this game. Or I'll look for if a card outclasses another card. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what I'll be looking for, but you find out as you play pretty quickly. So I mainly just lean on the play testing to find that out.
Do you, when you see a card that may not necessarily like be super clear what the purpose is, do you sometimes look at it and think about it for a second, and then the combo that it may enable in past stuff, does that come to you, or do you have to sit down and like start playing with something to find some of those hidden combos? Because you said you do see combos sometimes pretty easily. So
yeah, I think I mainly see everything, but I won't necessarily know I don't know. I think it comes from both for sure. So definitely a mixture of both.
All right. So next question here. We have a couple more, but I think this will be the last one. This comes from Alexander Villagomez. Do you build fundamentally different playlines into your decks for when going first or second? How do you think about that dynamic when building / editing / teching your decks?
Yeah, that is a really great question. You absolutely have to have a plan for when you go first and just throw it out the window when you go second. If you look back at I made a video of a 1K I won with an Emerald Steel deck. If you watch game 1 and watch game 2, I played like I was using a completely different deck. So when I was going first, I was able to get the turn 3 Robin Hood and shift into a whole new world. A play that I couldn't really make going second because of the pressure that their characters would have on me. So whether I build it in specifically to the deck or not, I'm approaching the game differently if I'm going first or second. And so when I am playtesting, I am trying to go second every single game. I want to know that my deck can win when I'm going second, because when I go first, it's going to be easy if I can win when I'm going second. So thinking about going second, like I just test as much as I can going second and build the deck to where it wins going second, and then it will inherently just win when I go first as well.
That's brilliant. You were talking about your YouTube channel, and I just want to put another plug for that. So one of the things that I appreciate about your YouTube channel is you'll put up like videos of gameplays from tournaments you've been in, and you give like your stream of consciousness, like what you're thinking. I mean, obviously you're not doing it real time, but you're looking back over it and you're talking about why you did, what your thought process was. And for me, that is the type of information that is invaluable, because like I said, seeing that game, being open-minded, like what you said, is not something that comes easy for me. So getting that like real commentary is huge. So if for nothing else, go check out Lorcana Castle just so you can see how a high-level player thinks.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move into ending segments, James?
Sure. We only have a little bit of news, and then we actually do have some new cards, finally. The news is that Chicago DLC is going on sale Friday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, which means that this is going to drop mere hours before it goes on sale. So good luck, everyone who's trying. And the cap was doubled up to 1,024. So 1,024 tickets will be available. Now, this is going to be available for sale on Eventbrite like the first one was, despite them saying they were going to move to Melee. Melee did not get whatever they needed done in time to be able to facilitate doing the tickets there. So this may be the last one that they sell through Eventbrite. We don't know yet. But they did apologize. Rochelle did apologize for not being able to follow through on that. It was just, logistics behind the scene. But good luck to everyone who is going. And Zach, good luck in getting a ticket to that.
Thanks. I will
be skipping that one. But
no, you missed another piece of news, James.
What other news?
They updated the comprehensive rule.
Oh, right. They document,
did. And they clarified who your opponent is.
It's so funny that they had to do that.
I'm so glad they told me.
For anybody who's wondering, in document or in subsection 1.4.1, anyone a player's playing against is their opponent. So there we have the definitive answer who your opponent is.
Now I can get sleep at night now that I know that.
Now let's also go back and say that there actually is a not funny, I can't believe they had to do that one, but they did clarify the actions and the words on them and what "and" means in some cases, and that you don't necessarily have to do everything on a card. It's the Lorcana way is do as much as you're able. So in the case of like the Queen, where it's, you give someone +4 and someone else -4, if you don't have someone to give -4, you just give the +4 to whoever you give it to. So they did clarify that, which was causing some issues as well. So, but yeah, rules. Woo! But we had 2 new cards. The first one, let's go over these. So you get Zach's thoughts on these cards. The first one was revealed on This Week in Ink by the Inkwell. And it is a record player, an amber item to cost inkable with 2 abilities. Look at this. Whenever you play a song, chosen character gets -2 strength until the start of your next turn. And Hit Parade, your character's name Stitch count as having +1 cost to sing songs. So what do we think of this?
So it's certainly possible that they print all these crazy stitches or something and maybe it becomes good, but just looking at it inherently, it doesn't seem like a super strong card. So yeah, I don't know how much play it we'll see.
Because the -2 is you would think something that an aggro deck would find very helpful, and having it on the field all the time, unlike let's say Kita, who comes down and does it once and then never again. Having it on the field might be a good thing, but it's only when you play a song, and aggro decks really don't play very many songs, right?
Yeah, there's so many stipulations to it. Plus, you're paying the ink to get it out in the first place, so you're losing tempo in the first place to do that, which is something aggro doesn't want to do.
Right.
And then if they just remove it with a Benja, you're double in trouble. So
yeah, but this is even worth removing with a Benja.
Well, yes, but have you considered that now Stitch Rockstar can sing "Be Prepared"? That's what I see everybody talking about.
Wow, I had not considered that, and I don't think I ever will again.
Oh boy!
All right, so this moves into the when you're building a Lilo and Stitch deck for your themed league night. This may go in the deck.
Yeah, it's possible.
All right, now we're going to get to the one that we actually think might be pretty good, possibly, I think. And that's the one that was revealed today. And that is We Don't Talk About Bruno, a song in Emerald, 5-cost inkable, with the ability return chosen character to their player's hand, and then that player discards a card at random. So this is basically Sudden Chill and Mother Knows Best in one card.
Can we talk about the fact that this is a Emerald card that's good and not uninkable?
Right? Yeah.
Right? Is this real, or is this is this a out of season April Fool's joke here?
Yeah, it seems super strong. I think it's really, really good, especially when you consider if you ship the Robin Hood turn 3, you can play it. There's some really crazy stuff you can do with it. I think it's really good.
But here's the thing that has the Twitter sphere and Discord universe. Everybody arguing, how do you discard a card at random?
So I don't know how it'll officially be. Does it say your opponent is the one that throws it away, or does it say you?
Return chosen character to player's hand. Then that player discards a card at random. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, in the past, how that would be handled in other card games, usually it would say I'm trying to think of the exact wording, but basically they would shuffle their hand and you would just point one or something, or they would lay their hand down and you would roll a die and whatever number. I think those are the only two ways I've ever seen it handled before. You have to take out any chance of them knowing what the card is. So I think the die roll or something like that is the way to go.
So at random, basically you, as the person who is discarding at random, you have to do it in such a way that your opponent, the person who played the card, feels like it's random.
Yes, definitely.
Whatever method that may be.
Yeah, exactly. I guess we'll see what they tell us.
And I think the die roll is the thing that makes most sense if you're going to try to guarantee randomness,
or just letting your opponent pick the card with them face down.
But that's not
shuffle them, show them to them, and have them pick it.
Yeah, that's a little tricky too. I don't know. You can get into things like marked cards and all kinds of stuff. There's too many loopholes with that. Whereas I want something completely like the die roll or something.
All right. I thought having the opponent pick it was not like the
you said the opponent. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I think that's
I'm going to say, okay, to make it completely random, you pick the card.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the other person. Yeah, I think that could work too. I think those are the only two ways that you could do it.
Okay.
But as far as the actual card itself, how playable do you think this card is?
It seems super playable. I think it's really, really good.
Does this maybe make some... So I feel like this maybe is signifying with how many Amber characters we had in the starter deck with the Madrigals, that maybe this is trying to bring Amber Emerald deck back into the front here, because then you have so many singers in Amber.
Yeah, that would be fun. That's one of the most fun combinations for sure, I think, to play Emerald Amber. So that would be cool. I could see that with all the discard stuff, all the singers, like you said.
Yeah, because if your opponent has an empty hand, which is something a discard deck wants to do anyway, you play this card and it's basically like a Dragonfire for Emerald.
Yeah.
And if you have a Prince John out, you're getting the benefit of getting a draw as well.
Yeah, this card could be really good.
All right. Sweet. Yeah, I saw that one. I was like, this looks like a good card. And it's inkable in emerald. I mean, that blows your mind.
It does.
All right, so we are going to move on to Disney Jeopardy, and we tried finding good questions for you, Zach. Are you ready?
As ready as I'm gonna be.
Because we know that you are a big fan of Hercules, so we have a Hercules themed.
Oh no, you're gonna expose me on Hercules.
Jeopardy. All right, so for 100, this is the name of Hercules' horse.
The Hercules horse? You're talking about the Pegasus?
Yes. Ding, ding, ding. That's the name, Pegasus.
Yeah.
So, all right, for 200, this is the name of Hercules' trainer.
I don't know how to say it. Phil. Let's go with Phil.
Philoctetes, I think, is
okay. There we go.
Name. All right, you're doing good. You're 2 for 2. For 300, this shoe company, named after a Greek goddess, is the inspiration for a couple visual gags in Hercules.
This shoe company? Oh man, all I know is some air hercs, man.
Yeah. So, what are the air hercs based off of, like in real life?
I do not know the answer to this question.
What's the shoe company that has an air blank?
Are you talking about some Nikes?
There you go.
All right, air hercs, baby.
Yes,
the Air Hercs were inspired by the Nike shoes, Air Jordans.
Nike is the name of a Greek goddess.
What?
Nike is the name of a Greek goddess. The goddess of
I didn't
triumph.
know that.
Yeah.
Huh. What is Nike the Greek goddess of?
Triumph. Winning.
Wow. Okay. I learned something too. All right. So for 400, Hercules skips a stone and accidentally breaks the arms off of this statue, showing how it came to be what it is today. What's the name of the statue?
I do not know the name of the statue.
I told James, I was like, hopefully Zach knows his Greek history here. What is the Venus de Milo? De Milo.
See, that one sounds complicated.
It's right there in the movie.
I need to go back and watch it.
No.
But it doesn't say Venus de Milo.
No. I was just like, you know what? If you don't know like all these little like tidbits of information about the movie itself, I was like, maybe some Greek stuff you would have maybe learned in high school and remember at this point in your life, but maybe not.
All right, I'm worried about 500 now.
500. Okay. Hercules is the Roman name for this character. This is his Greek name.
He has another name other than Hercules?
So Hercules is the Roman version of the name. So in Greek, his name is this.
Man, if it's not Hercules, I can't tell you.
I can tell you that he was named to honor his mother.
I only know Zeus as his father. I wish I knew his mother right now.
See, my hints are never helpful, ever.
It's my
his mother's name is Hera.
Yeah, his mother's name is Hera.
Okay.
So his name in Greek is... Sorry, go ahead, James.
It's Heracles.
Heracles.
There we go. Now it makes
just
sense.
Like one letter different in a different spot, and that's it. It was Greek and Romans, man, stealing each other's stories.
But the questions based off of the movie, you were 100%. So nobody can claim you aren't a fan here.
That's right.
Just need to go back and study Greek history.
There you go.
No reason whatsoever.
Time, Zach. All right. So again, thank you so much for coming on, Zach. Like, it was a pleasure. This is an interview that we've all been excited for. And like, I personally have learned so much about how to prepare for a tournament, how to hopefully like find a deck that will do well, how to like play in the tournament as far as being present, being open, and like just so much information. You have given us a wealth of information here. So if people want to find you online, we've plugged you already, but plug yourself once again. Where can people find you?
So go over to Twitter. It's at Zach Bivens1 on Twitter. And then on YouTube, it's Lorcana Castle. So those are the two main places. We talked about coaching a little bit. So if you're interested in that, you can just DM me on Twitter as far as that goes. But those are the places at the moment.
Awesome. And if you liked what you heard, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us on the podcasting platform of your choice. You can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter at Citizens of Lorcana. And James, where can they find you?
You can find me everywhere at Dan Regal, and we are mere weeks away from the beginning of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog podcast season. So if you're following along for some Comic-Con content, go ahead and listen over there. And thank you again, Zach, and thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.